Libra, tell me something honest for a moment. Have you felt the shift, that quiet tremor in the air, as if life itself is finally starting to lean in your favor? Because right now, something rare is unfolding for you. Not noise, not luck, but a sacred correction. A moment when the universe gently lifts the weight you've carried with too much grace for far too long. There's a truth rising for Libra, a truth that doesn't need to shout to be real. It lives in that subtle pull in your chest. The one that's been telling you, justice is finally coming, keep watching. And maybe your days have felt heavy, unspoken, clouded by choices that weren't fair, or people who didn't see your worth. But tonight, this message finds you with purpose, because you're standing at the edge of a breakthrough that has your name written into it. So, breathe, stay with me. There's something you've waited a long time to hear, and it begins right after this moment. Libra, come a little closer for a moment. I want to speak to the part of you that rarely tells the truth out loud, the part that keeps the peace even when your inner world feels anything but peaceful. You've carried so much grace on shoulders that shouldn't have had to hold that weight, and yet you held it, quietly, as if the universe had no choice but to notice. You see, justice for you has never been about winning. It has never been about proving anyone wrong. It has always been about truth, balance, that quiet sense of rightness you feel in your chest when life aligns with who you really are. And I know, Libra, there were nights when you wondered if that alignment would ever come back to you. Nights when the scales inside you felt stuck, tilted by someone else's choices, someone else's noise, someone else's lack of honesty. But here's the truth the world rarely says aloud. People like you don't stay out of balance forever, because you were born to restore it, not by force, not by shouting, but by the simple, unwavering energy of someone who still chooses integrity even after being disappointed. And that's why this moment belongs to you. There is a turning happening, whether you've named it or not, a subtle shifting of weight, a soft click of cosmic alignment. Almost like the universe leaned down, touched the scale you've been guarding so protectively, and whispered, "It's time. Not time for revenge, not time for explanations, just time for the truth to return to its rightful place." And if you listen closely, you may feel it. In the way your breath falls a little deeper tonight, in the way your heart relaxes inside your chest, as if it has finally found room, in the way something inside you, something small but steady, says, "Yes." This is what fairness feels like, because Libra, you haven't been imagining it. Life really has pushed you into corners where you had to swallow your voice just to keep the peace. You've stepped back so others could step forward. You've softened when others sharpened. You gave when others took. But something different is happening now. The scale is tilting back, not dramatically, not with noise, but with a quiet precision that feels almost surgical. Life is returning something to you, something you thought you'd long outgrown the right to hope for, a truth, a recognition. A result that says, you weren't wrong, you weren't foolish. Your heart was right all along. And maybe that's the real gift here. Not the outcome itself, but the soft restoration of your faith in the way things are meant to unfold. You deserve to feel that. You deserve to breathe knowing that your patience didn't go unnoticed. Your kindness wasn't wasted. Your silence wasn't weakness. So let this moment settle in you. Let it soak through the layers of your doubt. Let it remind you that the universe moves slowly, but it never forgets its promises. And as this truth rises for you, Libra, something else begins to stir. A new chapter forming at the edge of your awareness. A shift that carries not just justice, but opportunity. Stay with me, because the next part is where everything begins to open. Libra, let me sit with you for a moment. There's something in the air around you. Something you've felt even if you haven't fully named it yet. It's that quiet pull, almost like the universe brushing against your shoulder, asking you to pay attention. These late November days carry a different weight for you. Not heavy, not dark, just full. Full of possibility you can't quite see, but can somehow sense. And if you've been wondering why your heart feels a little more alert lately, why your intuition feels like it's leaning forward rather than drifting back, it's because you're stepping into a window of time that was made for you, truly made for you. November 27th through 30th is not just a set of dates, it's a doorway, a soft cosmic opening where truth begins to move again, where stuck energy finally loosens its grip, where life stops circling and starts arriving. I want you to think of this period like standing in a hallway right before the sun rises. Everything is still dim, but something about the air feels charged, almost humming. That's the kind of opening these days hold for you, a moment where recognition finds you not because you chase it, but because the universe tilts the light just right, and suddenly your name is the one that shows up, the one that's chosen, the one that's called forward. And I know you, Libra. You've had moments when you felt almost invisible despite giving so much of yourself. Moments when you stayed calm while others created storms. Moments when you told the truth and it was easier for people to believe a lie. These are the things you don't talk about often, but you feel them. They live in the quiet folds of your heart. But these days ahead, they hold a shift. Something long delayed is finally catching up to you. Something owed is beginning to move. It might arrive as a message you weren't expecting, a chance that seems to appear out of nowhere, a piece of clarity that rearranges everything. But whatever form it takes, it carries one unmistakable feeling: fairness. The kind that doesn't need permission. The kind that simply arrives because it was always meant to. There's a sense of emotional symmetry returning to your life now. The misunderstandings that once clouded your path are beginning to clear. The silence surrounding something you've been waiting to know is starting to break. Even the energy of money, opportunity, and recognition seems to lean closer, like it's finally ready to reach you instead of drifting past you. There's a deeper message in all of this, one you're meant to hear, not with your ears, but with your spirit. You are not behind. You haven't been forgotten. You are in alignment with a moment designed to restore what has felt uneven in your life. And as this doorway continues to open for you, something else begins to stir. A quiet warmth rising from a place you thought had gone cold. A reminder that justice is not loud, and blessings do not always announce themselves. Sometimes they arrive gently, like a truth settling into its rightful place after wandering too long. Stay with me now, Libra, because what unfolds next isn't just about fairness returning. It's about your heart being seen in a way it hasn't been in years, and that shift is where your story starts to deepen. Libra, I want to talk to that quiet part of you now, the one you rarely show the world, the one that has held the weight of misunderstandings with such quiet dignity. You've always wanted harmony, not because you were afraid of conflict, but because you could feel the cost of it long before anyone else did. And that kind of sensitivity, it's a gift, even when it feels like a burden. You've walked through seasons where fairness seemed like a distant dream, where the truth sat in your throat with no place to go, where you were painted as something you never were, simply because you refused to match someone else's chaos. And I know, Libra, that even the strongest part of you has wondered, when will someone finally see what I was trying to protect? You weren't trying to win. You weren't trying to overpower. You were simply trying to keep life from breaking apart at the seams. And somehow, in the middle of trying to hold everything together, you became the one who got misunderstood, the one who got overlooked, the one who didn't get the apology or the clarity or the recognition you deserved. But here's the thing, life doesn't tell you ahead of time. Truth works slowly, but it never stops working. And emotional justice, the kind that reaches deeper than words, has its own strange timing. It arrives quietly, like a warm wind slipping through a half-open window. You barely notice it at first, but then something inside you relaxes, something unclenches, something whispers, you made it through. You're stepping into that moment now. There's a softness entering your life that feels almost unfamiliar. It's the softness of being understood without having to explain. The softness of someone finally admitting what they denied before. The softness of life returning what you gave away. Not in bitterness, but in balance. This is not loud triumph. It's not the kind that makes you want to raise your voice or declare anything to the world. It's quieter, holier. It settles into you the way warm water fills a cold cup. Slowly, gently, until you realize the temperature has completely changed. Justice for you is not about taking anything back. It's about restoring what should have been protected from the beginning. Your name, your intention, your heart. And right now, life is placing those things back into your hands with a tenderness that almost feels surreal. You might notice it in a message you didn't expect, or in the way someone suddenly sees you clearly for the first time. Or maybe it comes as an internal shift, a moment where you realize you no longer feel the need to carry old versions of yourself. What's happening for you now is a quiet balancing, the return of truth to its rightful home, the return of your spirit to its natural strength, the return of peace you thought you had to live without. And as this understanding settles into you, as your heart finally exhales after holding so much for so long, something else begins to rise. Not noise, not tension, but a new space forming in front of you, a space where the next chapter begins to take shape in a way you could never have imagined while you were surviving the last one. Stay with me, Libra, because what unfolds from here isn't just justice. It's a doorway opening into something even more profound. Libra, let me stay right here with you for a moment, in this quieter space where it's just you and the truth you've been carrying for far too long. You know, there's a certain kind of exhaustion that doesn't show up in your face, in your voice, or in your schedule. It shows up in the pauses between your thoughts, in the way you've stopped expecting certain conversations to go well, in the way you've learned to brace yourself before answering a message or walking into a room that used to feel safe. You've lived inside those knots, not because you wanted to, but because you kept trying to make things work even when you were the only one trying. There were connections that pulled more from you than they ever gave back. Relationships where you gave clarity and got confusion. Family situations where you were the quiet mediator no one thanked. Responsibilities you never asked for but still held because you couldn't stand to see everything fall apart. And yet, with all that weight, you held your center. Even if it shook sometimes. Even if you weren't sure what you were holding it for. What's happening now, Libra, is the gentle undoing of something you were never meant to carry alone. It's subtle at first, like a thread loosening without your hands even touching it. Something shifts. A tension lets go. A dynamic you thought would drain you forever suddenly loses its power. You may not even realize the moment it happens. Only that one morning, you feel just a little more free than the night before. There is a kind of liberation that doesn't come from fighting. It comes from alignment, from timing, from truth finally having enough room to breathe. And I want you to understand this part deeply. You did not force anything open. Life opened it for you. The imbalance you've endured, the unfair expectations, the emotional weight of being the one who always tries to fix what others break. It's dissolving now, not because they changed, but because the universe has decided you no longer need to stand in the line of fire. You might notice little signs of this release. Conversations that used to spiral now simply settle. Someone who drained you suddenly steps back. A problem that clung to you begins to lose its grip. A situation that once took up all your mental space starts to feel distant, like a storm finally moving off the horizon. This is the universe standing beside you in ways you never thought it would. Not loudly, not dramatically, but in the precise, graceful way Libra energy understands best. And perhaps the most healing part of it all is this. You don't have to fight for what's fair anymore. What's fair is finding you on its own. There's a softness returning to your path, the kind that comes when you no longer have to shrink yourself to keep the peace, when you no longer have to over-explain or overextend, when the people who took your calm for granted start confronting their own noise without dragging you into it. Feel that, Libra. Feel how life is beginning to make room for you again. How the knots you lived inside are loosening one by one. And as they loosen, something else is quietly forming in the empty space they leave behind. A new clarity, a new strength, a new kind of relationship with yourself. Stay close, Libra, because what begins to rise from this freedom will take you somewhere even deeper. Libra, let me bring you in a little closer for this part, because what I'm about to tell you feels almost like a secret the universe has been holding on to until the timing was finally right. There comes a moment in every Libra's life when the truth you've been waiting for doesn't just appear, it arrives through someone who carries the very clarity your heart has been quietly longing for. And I don't mean this in a dramatic way. It's not the kind of revelation that knocks the wind out of you. It's the kind that feels like the soft lighting of a candle in a dark room. Suddenly you can see. Suddenly you can breathe. Suddenly something inside you says, "Ah, so this is what I've been waiting for." In these late November days, there is a presence approaching you. A person aligned not with your fear, not with your doubt, not with the noise you've had to endure, but with your truth. They come in a steady, grounded way, almost as if they were guided by a force they didn't even realize they were listening to. It could be someone who works with fairness every day, someone whose voice has weight, someone who sees things through the lens of logic and responsibility. Or maybe it's someone whose heart simply recognizes yours. The way you've carried yourself through confusion, the way you've tried to stay balanced even when the world made that impossible. Their role isn't to fix your life. Their role is to reveal what you couldn't access on your own. A message, a decision, a truth finally spoken aloud. Something that shifts your inner landscape in a way you feel immediately, like a door unlocking somewhere inside your chest. And, Libra, I want you to hear this gently. This moment is not an accident. This person is not random. You've been calling this clarity toward you with every moment you chose integrity over impulse, truth over chaos, patience over pressure. This is why the energy feels different now. This is why the air around you feels like it's carrying whispers of something long overdue. The information they bring may concern your work, your money, a contract, a path you thought was closed, a situation where you weren't treated fairly, or even a misunderstanding that placed you in the wrong light. But whatever it is, it carries the feeling of alignment finally clicking into place. For some Libras, this person is the bridge between where you've been and where you're meant to go. For others, they are simply the one who confirms what your intuition whispered all along. And sometimes they show up as the unexpected ally, the person who says the words you've been needing to hear to release something that has stayed heavy far too long. You'll recognize them not by the title they hold, but by the way your body responds when they speak. A loosening, a breath that falls easier, a quiet sense of rightness settling into you. This is your yes, Libra, the one you thought was drifting away from you, the one that felt delayed, but was actually on its way with perfect timing. Let it land gently. Let it remind you that you were never waiting in vain. And as this truth begins to steady your steps, something else starts forming just beyond your awareness. A shift even deeper than clarity, one that moves you toward the life you've been quietly preparing for without even knowing it. Stay with me, because what rises next isn't just news. It's the beginning of your restoration. Libra, let me tell you something softly, because it deserves to land gently. In the quietest part of you. Not everything in your life has come easily. You know that more than anyone. You've had to wait for timing, wait for people to grow, wait for truth to catch up to the lies told about you. Wait for the universe to notice what your heart gave without asking for anything in return. Waiting has been its own kind of weather for you. It shaped the seasons of your life. It taught you patience you never meant to learn, compassion you had no teacher for, and strength you didn't even know you were building. And yet, even with all that waiting, you never let your spirit harden. You never became bitter. You never allowed the world to turn your softness into something sharp. That alone, Libra, is a miracle. There is a particular kind of blessing reserved for people who don't give up on their goodness, even when the world gives them every reason to. A blessing that moves slowly, quietly, deliberately, but when it finally arrives, it feels like the universe exhaling directly into your life. You are standing right at the edge of that moment. These blessings are not loud. They do not rush in with fireworks or thunder. They arrive the way dawn does, a slow widening of light until suddenly everything around you looks different. And the most beautiful part of these overdue blessings is that they cannot be taken. Not by misunderstanding, not by jealousy, not by the people who once dismissed you because they couldn't recognize your depth. What is coming now carries your name in its foundation. It was built for you, shaped for you, aligned to you. You might feel it already. The way your chest loosens when you think of the future. The way old fears feel a little less convincing. The way possibility has begun to glow at the edges of your days again. This next chapter will return things that should have been yours from the beginning. Recognition for how steady you've been. Respect for the way you showed up even when it felt thankless. Opportunities that match your worth, not the watered-down version of yourself you once settled for. Money that flows because you are no longer blocking your own receiving. A sense of stability that settles into your life like warm sand beneath tired feet. And maybe the most profound blessing of all, the peace of knowing you no longer need to earn what you already deserve. Because the thing about overdue blessings is that they gather strength while they wait. They stack themselves quietly in the background of your life, building, multiplying, preparing. So when they finally reach you, they come not in pieces, but in fullness. And Libra, that fullness is approaching, closer than you think, closer than you have ever felt before. Let yourself believe that. Let yourself soften into it. You have carried the weight long enough. It is time for life to carry something toward you. And as these blessings begin to take shape around you, something else is being stirred awake. Something deeper, something tied not to reward, but to release. Stay right here with me, because what unfolds next will loosen the very last thread that has held you back from stepping into who you were always meant to become. Libra, there's something I want you to breathe into for a moment. That space inside you where loss and relief sit right next to each other, almost touching. You've let go of something recently. Maybe a person, maybe an expectation, maybe a version of yourself you tried so hard to keep alive. And even if you haven't fully admitted it out loud, you can feel the shift, something inside you unclenched. And I want to sit with that feeling with you, because letting go is rarely a clean moment. It's messy, it's quiet, it's layered with memories you didn't choose but still carry. But beneath all of that, there is an opening, a lightness that wasn't there before, a sense that the air is moving again after being still for far too long. You might not have realized it, but that release you made, the one that cost you comfort, the one that made you doubt whether you made the right choice, it did something powerful to the energy around you. It cleared space. It invited something new. It told the universe, I'm ready for what matches my worth, not my wounds. And now, life is responding. You see, Libra, when you hold on to something out of fear, scarcity, or attachment, your blessings don't disappear. They just wait outside the door you haven't opened yet. But when you finally lift the latch, even a little, abundance senses the shift immediately. It starts to flow toward you like water finding the lowest point, effortlessly, naturally, without force. That is what's happening in your life right now. A financial flow is forming quietly but steadily. Not because you hustled harder, not because you proved anything, but because you let go of something that was blocking the path. It could have been an unhealthy dynamic, could have been the expectation that you always have to be the strong one, could have been the idea that you need permission to choose yourself. Whatever it was, letting it go didn't leave you empty. It made room for clarity, room for opportunity, room for money to move the way it wants to move, toward balance. There's a softness returning to you. You're breathing a little easier. Your thoughts aren't looping the way they used to. Even the silence around you feels different, like a blanket instead of a weight. This phase isn't about effort. It's about alignment. You are no longer carrying the tension that once tangled your energy and slowed your blessings. And because of that, life can finally reach you without resistance. You might notice small signs first, a bill resolving easier than expected, an opportunity appearing where there used to be closed doors, a feeling of being magnetized towards something that feels right instead of forced. These aren't coincidences, they're confirmations. Letting go wasn't a loss, it was a signal, and Libra, the universe heard you. Now you're stepping into a more open field, a place where you don't have to brace for disappointment, a place where what's coming toward you isn't unpredictable or unstable, but meant. Feel that. Let it settle in your bones. Your energy is no longer tangled, it's moving, and whatever moves attracts. And as this new flow begins to gather around you, something even deeper starts stirring beneath the surface. A realization that what's arriving isn't just abundance, but a restoration of your inner balance in ways you haven't felt in years. Stay with me, because what comes next will show you exactly why the letting go had to happen. Libra. Take a slow breath with me. Not the kind you take when you're trying to be strong, the other kind. The kind that comes when you finally realize the ground beneath you has stopped shaking, because something in your life is settling in the most honest and rightful way. You've been walking toward this moment for longer than you think. Every time you chose truth over convenience. Every time you stayed kind when it wasn't reciprocated. Every time you swallowed your hurt to keep peace that wasn't yours to maintain. You were planting seeds in a soil most people don't even know how to touch. And now, those seeds are blooming. This is your breakthrough season. It may not explode into your life all at once. It may arrive in steady ripples. A yes where there used to be silence. An opening that once felt impossible. a financial moment that comes almost too perfectly timed to ignore. But make no mistake, this is the Libra blessing, the one your spirit has been quietly preparing for, while your mind was still trying to make sense of the past. There will be a victory here, one that feels clean, undeniable, and deeply earned. Not because someone handed it to you, but because the universe finally aligned itself with what your heart has known all along. There is a justice rising for you now. Not loud, not vengeful, just balanced, elegant, like life finally matching the tone of your soul. You might feel it first as a soft warmth in your chest, a moment of exhale, a knowing, something within you whispering, "I didn't imagine my worth. It was always real." And with that shift, opportunities begin to turn toward you. Money that once felt stuck begins to move. Recognition arrives in conversations you were never supposed to overhear. Paths you thought had closed now reveal themselves in a new light, like doors you once pressed your ear against, but never dared to open. Suddenly, they open for you. This next chapter is about receiving, a word Libra often forgets to practice. Receiving without guilt, receiving without shrinking, receiving without explaining why you deserve what is already yours. Because you do. You always did. This blessing isn't just about finances or justice or stability. It is about identity, about stepping back into the version of you that existed before you had to carry so much, before you were misunderstood, before life asked you to prove your softness was not weakness. You're returning to yourself now. Not a past self, a fuller one. One shaped by truth, clarity, and the calm that comes after surviving storms without losing your compassion. And as November closes its final pages, there's something tender waiting for you on the other side, a sense of peace that doesn't require effort, not something you fight for, something you step into, a beginning that feels like alignment rather than repair. So, trust this, Libra. Trust what is unfolding under your feet. Trust what is rising through your days. You're not here to justify your worth anymore. You're here to receive the life that recognizes it. And as this truth settles deeper, another quiet realization begins to glow at the edges of your awareness, almost like a lantern being lit in the distance. The understanding that everything ahead of you is built on balance you no longer have to bargain for. Stay with me, because this new chapter isn't just a blessing. It's a homecoming. And Libra, as we reach the end of this moment together, I want you to hear something clearly, maybe clearer than anything else tonight. You made it through. You walked with grace when life gave you every reason not to, and now the universe is simply catching up to the strength you've been carrying in silence. There is a softness rising around you now, the kind that only appears after long nights of questioning your own worth. But listen, you were never lost. You were being prepared. This blessing, this justice, this new beginning, it isn't the finish line. It's the opening chapter of a life where you no longer dim your light to keep the peace. A life where you receive as naturally as you give. A life where balance finally feels like home. So, take a breath, Libra. Let it land. Let it nourish the parts of you that have been running on empty. And if this message touched something inside you, tell me in the comments. Share what part of your story you're ready to release. Like this video. Subscribe so you don't miss the next message meant for you. You're not alone here. Not in this community, not in this journey, not in this season of rising. Because this path, it isn't ending. It's unfolding. And the next message, the one your soul is already sensing, is closer than you think. Until then, trust yourself, Libra. Trust what's shifting. Trust what's coming. Your blessing has already begun.